So I recently did video reviews of the new Tarzan and Jane figures from Boss Fight Studios. These are figures on the 3 3/4 inch scale, and during the review I showed figures from other lines that you can put them with for display. And as I said in that video, none of this is a substitute for Boss Fight Studios actually coming out with their own animals to put with Tarzan and Jane. Because, for instance, the animals that are next to Tarzan are non-articulated, so while the sculpts are great, wouldn't it be cool to pose them? And then for the elephant, this is actually from Jumanji, and I had a viewer point out that that elephant is actually not an African elephant. But Jane, it was on sale at Walmart, and it's the only elephant I could find on this scale. Okay, so Jane wants a new elephant. So it's kind of hard to find online because if you search elephant figure or 3 3/4 inch elephant, you just won't find anything on this scale. Thankfully, the viewer who pointed this out had some suggestions for elephants on this scale. One of his suggestions was an elephant from Mark's Toys, and this is a vintage 1975 toy. And so it was hard to find one that was in good condition. I found one outside of the box for $100, and another one was in box for $175, and so that was a little outside of the price range I was looking for. But he had a second suggestion that was a little cheaper. This is an Animal Planet elephant, and it comes in a couple different sets. One is this play set, and the play set looks neat. You put it together so you can probably take off those flags. It still has a little bit of a cheap toy feel in the pictures, but I'm sure a customizer could have a ball with it. The elephant also has sound, which sounds like this. And then there's another set that has it from Animal Planet, except this elephant is darker and doesn't have sound. And so somehow I managed to get neither. So this is something that resembles what came with the playset. It's got the same color and it's got the same saddle, except it doesn't have the sound. I opened it up and there was nothing inside that would interact with the battery at all. So I'm not quite sure what this came with. I bought it loose. So it does have a saddle that your figures can ride, which Tarzan doesn't need, but if he ever wants to chill out, he certainly can. And by the way, for some reason, the seat does rotate, so there you go. The seat has quite a bit of detail, but it's mostly unpainted, but I'm sure a customizer could have a ball with this. However, if you're not a customizer and you don't want your elephant walking around with an Animal Planet logo on, you can take it off. It's hooked on very tightly with these two pegs that are quite challenging to take off. So what I did was I took a hair dryer to it for about 20 seconds on low or medium, and that softened up the plastic. And I'm not sure if that's what made this easier, but it was a lot easier to get it off the second time. So let's take a look at the elephant without the harness. So this is kind of designed as this kind of budget kind of toy for children. And so it's got a flat paint job, and the detail isn't quite as fine as what you'll find in some other figures. And, it's definitely got this kind of crazy look in the eye, especially. I think what does it in the eye is that it's a little too bright, right? Elephants do have this color eye, but it's just not this bright. You can usually barely see it. That being said, all of this is probably not going to be noticeable when you display it. The thing I'm learning when I do these video reviews is that this is the closest I'm ever going to see this figure, with the camera right up on it like this. When you put it on display, you're going to be looking at it from a distance, right? For instance, take my recent comic book reviews. I have this elephant on the shelf there. That's probably more realistic about how you're going to be viewing it once you put it on display. If you're in a store and you're trying to judge a toy, you might want to take a few steps back instead of looking at it right up close. And I would say from a distance, he works quite well. He is non-articulated, so this pose that you're seeing is all that you're going to get with this figure. He is kind of a one-sided figure as far as display goes. His other side here has all these holes in them. That may not bother some people, but I really would prefer to display him from other angles. But yeah, that's pretty much what you get with this guy. So no articulation, but he can move his head a little bit, right? This is what would activate his sound if you did this. Because of this, you can get a slight variation in his facial expression where he has a little bit more of a closed mouth if you basically just shove something into this little crevice in the back of his head to kind of hold it down. And yes, your figures can ride him just fine. And with some effort, you can get both Tarzan and Jane to ride him together. Due to his wild expression, he looks like an elephant that Tarzan would ride into battle on, at least to me. And due to the shape of the trunk, you could actually have him holding a figure if you wanted. All right, so let's compare him to that Jumanji elephant. He is a bit bigger, but I don't think he's too big. I was a little concerned like he wouldn't fit on a shelf for display, or he wouldn't fit in a banker's box or a clear plastic tub that I store my toys in. But he's fine. He fits in all of that just fine. He's just a little bit bigger, which I think works well. He is an elephant. And here we can see the differences between the two elephants. So African elephants have bigger ears, and they also have kind of a rounded head, where Asian elephants have smaller ears and they have a kind of two humps on their head. The Animal Planet elephant is a lot lighter and because he's hollow, or at least mine is. So he's a little easier to topple over, but he's going to stand just fine and be very, very stable if you're displaying him. The Jumanji elephant has a lot of heft to him and is pretty hard to knock over. So the Jumanji elephant, if you get him complete, comes with a figure of the Rock. The Rock figure is kind of a basic G.I. Joe style 3 3/4 inch figure, but man, the paint job and the sculpting on this elephant are just fantastic. I mean, look at all that detail, and it really captures the look of that elephant to me very well. So the Jumanji elephant does have sound. And on mine, that button sticks, so if you want him to pose with his head raised a little bit, all you have to do is press down that button, and then if you want his head to go back down, you just press down on the trunk and it'll return it back to its normal position. And one thing that makes this unique, or at least I haven't been able to find another elephant that can do this, it's articulated on all 4 legs. So if you have a figure stand or if you have something you want him to climb, he can do that. And the Jumanji elephant's trunk is just the right shape that you can actually recreate that scene from Tarzan and his mate where Maureen O'Sullivan's Jane is on the elephant's trunk, which is pretty cool. And so overall, I am happy with the Animal Planet elephant for my Tarzan and Jane from Boss Fight Studios. However, I think there is still a tremendous opportunity to put animals in this line, especially an elephant. I mean, imagine if you had an elephant with a great paint job, a great sculpt, articulated legs, articulated head, maybe like a ball joint head, and interchangeable trunks, so you can have different poses with the trunks. You could even like pack in Korak in there and recreate that classic scene from the end of Son of Tarzan where Tantor comes in and saves Korak by, grabbing him with his trunk and racing him out of that village that's trying to kill him. I think that would be really, really cool. I think the sky is the limit for this line of Tarzan figures, and I hope we can get some animals in there at some point. All right, like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.